Nick Maravets of Locked On Cyclones. Are the BYU Cougars, I mean, we know Houston's good. Arizona is still good. Iowa State is good. Texas Tech is good. The Big 12 is better ultimately than everyone tried to make you think they were. But as it sits right now, because of depth, because of their ability on the floor to win games, both at home and on the road, do we all of a sudden have to consider BYU as the most dangerous team in this conference?
I'd like to know why you'd pick them to be the most dangerous team. Genuinely, I'll let you have the floor here, and then I'll kind of answer from that because I just want to know what lens you're looking at this from. I'm looking at
it from the lens of you were supposed to immediately say no. Houston is still very.
They are not even close. That's why you take your shot here. If you want, they are not the best team in the Big 12.
You were very much still supposed to say Houston. I think the Cougars, who have they lost that Texas Tech game and then came back with a fiery rage and just been on a rampage. Really, a rampage all season. This may be the greatest regular season Big 12 team of all time, and they just got to the Big 12. The win against Iowa State, the win against Texas Tech. Both top 10 games, one of those on the road. Kelvin Sampson did mention they both felt a little, not fraudulent necessarily, but because of how banged up Texas Tech and Iowa State were, he said it, there's an asterisk next to those wins because you have to consider there's still very good Big 12 teams that Houston mowed over. But the Cougars of Houston are number one. I do want to make the case, though, that BYU is the second most dangerous school in the Big 12 right now. And the biggest reason why, and what could ultimately make them better than Houston down the stretch. So this is the same BYU team that lost to them on the road 86-55 earlier this year. What could make BYU better? Coming off of road wins against West Virginia, a 40-point home win against Kansas, a win at Arizona. What could make them better is depth. The Cougars play 10 guys. Like consistently 10 guys. And I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world. We're not the NBA. Play 7 people. Play 8 people. That's how you do. That's how you do college basketball. That's how you do any basketball. My intramural team. Play your best 7 guys. You know, this is just the way that we've always done it. BYU said, nope. We have 10 players. We want them to get like stupid equal playing time. And there for a while, I hated it. I wanted it to die. And now, Nick, all of a sudden, BYU seems like the most fresh, consistent, arguably best team in the conference.
Well, and, obviously momentum's a real thing. Kansas State coming into Ames, I felt that for real. And these are, Arizona, good team. KU, maybe not the same level they were earlier, but still, I mean, it's Kansas. I can say that with confidence. It is, in fact, Kansas. So
a dead version, but yes, still Kansas.
They still wear Kansas across their chest. So, I do think that there is some momentum there. And when a team gets hot, if they're hard to beat, they're hard to beat. And I said before Iowa State faced Houston and before we knew Curtis and Keyshawn weren't going to be playing, there was some shakiness to Houston's wins across the year. Obviously, the buzzer beater against UCF, and you mentioned some of those injuries in there. I do put Houston at the top, and it's really not that close right now. They're playing on another level. But then you look into Arizona and Texas Tech. Where are they at? We just ripped apart Iowa State. Don't love that, but that's what happened. We can't have them in this conversation. And BYU right behind them in standings. Then it's Kansas, who we just said is literally dead. So there are levels to this. I do think BYU is very much in that conversation. Potentially, I love the depth there. That's what Iowa State was. We were very much suffering with that during the 7-game skid where we go 3-4. There's no Milan. Everyone's pushing 40 minutes a game. You could feel it. Okay, that's a real thing. Look at all these teams, Texas Tech, Iowa State against Houston. A lot of injuries there. If BYU can go into this tournament fresh and with momentum, not to say that they're the best team in the Big 12. They're not, but they can be dangerous. They absolutely could.
They could finish out as the second best team in the conference. I know a lot of Arizona fans will complain about the call at the end of the game, and the whistle the Big 12 has gotten all year long has just been finicky. That's kind of the nature of this conference and what happens here. We all have grown to we've all gotten used to it by now. Yep. I worry as I ask the question of the best teams in the Big 12. Again, Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, still Iowa State, BYU are all the ones that come up. When we talk about teams that might be dead, and I know we mentioned this a bit about Iowa State, does it feel like the Cyclones are in a similar category with Kansas or Baylor as teams that you're just wondering, what's going on and will the sun ever shine again?
I do think it's in that what's going on. I do. But with Iowa State, obviously, the injuries is the big thing right now. So when Keyshawn gets back, I saw a statistic today. I unfortunately don't have it up, but they were 9-0 in games in which Keyshawn shot a free throw, I think was the statistic, because when he drives the lane, that just opens up the offense so much more. Now, I'm sure that Milan was in every single one of those games too, because that means it wasn't during the 7-game stretch, and that's a whole different element to that. But you get this team back to full strength, and I think they're one of the best teams in the Big 12. The question is, who are they? Kansas? Nah, I think they're dead. I don't think that I think they'll show up for their Super Bowl. That is the Cyclones, and they'll show up for a few other games. Bill Self's a great coach. But no, they are not who they once were. And they even earlier this season, I don't think that they're on that level.
The Baylor Bears, TCU Horned Frogs, West Virginia Mountaineers. Lenardi still has West Virginia and Baylor hanging around there in March Madness. He also has a fighter's chance for Cincinnati and TCU. Do you think those Baylor Bears, those West Virginia Mountaineers deserve a spot in March, and that TCU and Cincinnati too could sneak their way in?
Well, I love the Big 12. We've talked, obviously in the first segment about where could the Big 12 be? How can they stick around? I love the just chaos that this conference provides. And we literally just saw it with Iowa State and Oklahoma State. Still not really over it. That being said, I do think that goes both ways, and these teams can provide that level of chaos into the tournament. Do you want that in the tournament? I don't know. You tell me. I do think that these teams are very good. You're playing some of the best basketball competition all year, right? And you're going to have the SEC Big 12 argument. That's fine. SEC's undefeated in imaginary games. I get it. But I just think the Big 12 is better. And so when you're playing better teams, it's a quality loss. Right? Isn't that what that would be? I don't know. That's just how I look at it. I'd love to see, and maybe if there's an even number of teams, Big 12, SEC, I don't know how it's all going to play out at the end. I think there could be more Big 12 teams in the Sweet 16. I think that there just is some depth to this conference now. I just got done saying that there's levels to it. I understand that I just said that, but it's levels within levels. Okay. Big 12 versus SEC.
Yeah. I don't hate that because there is a better cushion at the bottom of this league that hasn't usually been there. We don't typically have Arizona State, UCF, Colorado. Yeah. And maybe you want to loop in Oklahoma State to that. Sorry. But there are 3, 4, 5 teams at the bottom of the league that are all very beatable if you are a Arizona, a BYU, a Houston at this point. And the Big 12 has never really been known for that. They've been known for a gauntlet every night. That's waned to an extent, and with that, maybe you're more fresh going into March, have a better opportunity to go to the Sweet 16, because we always asked our Big 12 schools too downtrodden, too beaten up after a regular season of this conference. Guess we'll find out this year. Nick, if folks want to find more of your work, where can they go?
At Nick Marvel on Twitter. I stayed pretty quiet tonight, or I guess yesterday, unfortunately, after this Oklahoma State one, but generally covering games there, and then Locked On Cyclones, baby, every day.
You can find Locked On Big 12 at LO Big 12 on Twitter and wherever you find your podcasts with Locked On Big 12. This has been, it always will be, Locked On, a crossover with Locked On Cyclones. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.